closet because I really felt compelled to document this part of my life and what I'm going through. So I'm at this stage right now where I've always held on to things, not necessarily in the way of like a hoarder or anything, but held on to things that had a special meaning for me. And I think that that's normal for humans. Like humans throughout the ages have had a form of a totem in whatever culture they have where these items have a lot of meaning. But I've allowed that to get to a point where I have things that where the meaning is a bit dilute. And so I am forcing myself to go through each corner of my life and only choose to keep the totems that have a very distilled meaning. I was also compelled to share this piece with you. I was just doing some research for a work contract, and they asked me to look at the work of Ricardo Semler. And I'd never heard of this man before. And I just finished watching a fascinating documentary on him where he is being interviewed at his home in Brazil. He is an entrepreneur, he's a businessman, has written many books, very successful. Part of what makes him successful is that he thinks outside the box. And literally he has a philosophy that talks about boxes and the boxes that we live in our present day society. And the more he talks about it, the more it really makes sense. I think it also makes sense from a neuroscience and a behavioral science perspective that our brains are wired for safety, and therefore what is familiar feels safe. And so if we can keep ourselves in a box, and if we can keep our lives in boxes, keep our jobs in boxes, our relationships, that has an element of safety to it. And our brains like that. The juxtaposition of that is that although our brains really like putting ourselves and our lives into boxes, rarely does life fit within the confines of a box. And so he was stating that in order to truly experience freedom, experience creativity, to become who we're really meant to become, is not to think outside the box, but to recognize that you're in a box and how can you think inside the box and change the situation that's inside the box. So further into this documentary, he and his wife take all of the copies of his own books that he had in his library, and they take them to a fire and burn them. And obviously this was very significant for him and his wife, and it had a lot of meaning. And he was saying how oftentimes in order to move forward, we have to let go of our past. So part of my journey right now in my career is growing my business around mindfulness coaching, teaching meditation, both to individuals and businesses. And also, one part of my career that I still really love and enjoy is working in the education field. But I've moved on from frontline teaching. And part of my frontline teaching was, so I taught early education my whole career. And so a large part of that was books. And any teacher, you will talk to any teacher, and they will have a closet that looks like this, full of banker's boxes, full of resources. I've got resources here, and books. Being that I taught little children, it was very important to have high quality literacy materials, and schools just don't always have the funding. So between myself and my family, I collected a lot of books that I would use over and over again. The thing is that this is not just a book. This is a piece of my past. These hold memories. There are some books in these boxes that, I could name which students, where it was their favorite book. I mean, show me an early ed teacher who hasn't taught the napping house. And even, for example, this book, it teaches a conventional view of or an unconventional view of a family, where there is no conventional family anymore. There is, like, the nuclear family is no longer, right? So there's a lot of memories in these boxes, but just because I choose to empty these boxes doesn't mean that the memories go away. And so the mindfulness practice in all of this is paying attention to the feelings that I'm getting when how great. The feelings that are coming up when I'm choosing to go through these and give them another life elsewhere. So luckily, I work for an organization that is going to donate these books either to our classrooms or to our families. We have many families who cannot afford books, and they don't have books in their homes. So they are going to go on to fantastic lives and be in the hands of other children. That doesn't erase how I'm feeling about it, though. That's my job. My job is to recognize and accept how I'm feeling. My job is not to tamp down those feelings. My job is to experience those emotions as they come and as they leave. And if they continue to come, then they continue to come. But I don't want to live in these boxes anymore. And if I'm going to move forward in my career and overall in my life, I have to, both figuratively and literally, empty these boxes. And so when you're looking at your own practice and your own life, there are many, many different applications of mindfulness, and this is just simply one of them, where I'm taking the metaphor from Ricardo Semler and applying it to my own life and adding to it that piece of mindfulness of just like these boxes and what's in them has helped me get to where I am today, and for that I thank them. And that's kind of the Marie Kondo of thank you, you gave me a lot of joy, but it's time for you to give somebody else joy. And so I'm going to be going through that process throughout my whole house. I'm actually really looking forward to it, and it will be a challenge, but we only grow in adversity, and when we're no longer in adversity, it's an opportunity to rest and reflect. So it's important to have a balance of both. So I think that's it for now. Hope you're well.